Yo, guys, welcome to another episode of the Split Decision. Me and Para, and today we're joined by Mitch McCarron from Melbourne United. Welcome to the Split Decision.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for having me on.
And
No
I
worries,
guess
thanks for joining us.
thanks for joining us. And I guess before we start, we got to obviously mention Kremlin. Yeah, mention Kremlin. You know where.
I know.
They've got their website and they've got new hoodies coming out in a couple of weeks. So make sure you guys check out the website for that. And also make sure you're checking out the Instagram, the Twitter, the YouTube, and and the Reddit and the Reddit for some reason. And yeah, I guess we can get straight into it. And I guess our first question for you is what was your first memory of playing basketball?
First memory, jeez. I
Taking it
think,
way back.
yeah. I think my first memory, maybe I made this up, but playing my first basketball game. I think I was about six or seven. And there was a team that was short, and I was always around the stadium, and I used to go watch all the time. My parents would take me to go watch, but I was too little. And a team was short, and I jumped in, had the time of my life, and it just became a staple every week from then on. I'm pretty sure I remember that game or pieces of it.
So you joined the court and like, yeah, I got next, and then they're like, all right, just jump on the court.
Yeah, I think it was an all girls team. I think that was short. Hey, we won. I helped turn it around.
Hey, took the dub. That's all that matters.
Yeah. The Joeys picked up a new player.
So you were born in Alice Springs, and you and your family then moved to Brisbane, where you went to Genesis Christian College. Is that right?
That's correct.
Is that right? And so, what was it like? Like, what was the differences of growing up in Brisbane compared to like Alice Springs? Like, how was the environment changed there?
Well, I left. There's a few years in between. I left Alice when I was 3. So I didn't really have a say in the matter. But it was right after my brother was born. We moved to Brisbane. My dad started working for Basketball Queensland, and so I guess like the biggest difference for me was perhaps the people that I was around. Obviously having to make new friends and yeah, I started going to school. I went to a couple other schools before Genesis, but yeah, probably just getting used to a new area, I suppose. As I said, I was only 3 years old, so it's not like I had an elaborate set of friends or anything.
Right.
But just the surroundings and just the way of life was different. You know, mum and dad in Alice Springs used to manage the basketball stadium, so I spent 90% of my days running around there while they were working, just hanging out with random people. And in Brisbane, it wasn't really quite the same, obviously.
Right.
So you've always been around that sort of basketball culture because your mum and dad worked in that sort of area.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I can't really remember these times, but mum and dad used to tell me like they would just work and they would pretty much not worry about me. Sign of the times, hey. So I just run around the stadium, and random people just shoot hoops with me, or I'd just shoot a ball in a rubbish bin, and they'd come get me at the end of the day. And that was really that was pretty much what I did.
just let you free roam and shoot buckets all day.
Yeah, pretty much.
So then I'm growing up in Brisbane, how was playing basketball there, like especially like in your sort of adolescent years as well?
Yeah, it was good. It was a challenge just because of the way that junior basketball is. I don't know how it is right now. I'm assuming it's similar, but when I was in high school, I was playing at least 6 nights a week, and there was probably 4 teams that I was on at the one time. You know, like you had a region team, a school team that if I had any other training, I skipped out on, but you know, school team, region team, club team, rep team, and then you might have a state camp on the weekend, or you might have, you know, there's club games, rep games, in between that. So I guess from my schedule wise, like I'm 15, 16, I'm playing basketball every single evening. I'm supposed to be doing homework. And on a Sunday, when it's really my day to catch up on everything, I might have an 8 a.m. practice or a 9 a.m. practice, or some state camp, which goes all morning and into the afternoon down on the Gold Coast. So I don't get home till 4 p.m., 5 p.m., and I'm supposed to do an assignment before Tuesday. It's just like, yeah, I loved it. It was great. But at the same time, like, that's probably why my grades are a little
It's just stressful, like trying to juggle between school and basketball at the time as a kid.
Yeah, it was really stressful, especially doing subjects that I hated. It was different when I had a subject that I liked, because I at least I could sit up late doing that because I was enjoying it.
Right.
Whereas some of the subjects, like math, I don't know. Like I just competed for 2 hours and played a tight game, and I got to come home and do math. Like,
Oh, that's so true. So it sounds like you're really in the thick of it, like 6 nights a week. That's hectic.
Yeah, it was
training like all day, all night.
It was mental. And I think I at the time you don't really realize it, because you just like the teenage male bulletproof mindset. You think, oh no, I can do whatever I want. I'll be fine. I won't get tired. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. But you're wearing yourself out. I had a mental breakdown, probably term 2 or 3, with one of my assignments. It was math. It was something to do with like finding out tax, something. I don't know what it was really. And I had to get my mum to help, and she was like, well, you do it. You do it first. I just had a mental breakdown. Like I was so tired. I was so worn out. I'd just gotten back from China, which was a cool tour, but it ended up being through exam block. So I came back from that, missed exam block, had to make up all my exams in 2 or 3 days. And then I had this assignment to kick off term 3. I just broke down. I was like, nah, screw it. So it was hard.
So you said that your parents, they owned the basketball, or they were managing the basketball team. Sorry. So what was was that the main reason for you wanting to play basketball? Like, were your parents like the leading cause for you playing basketball as a kid?
I mean, they certainly had a say in it because of A, that, but B, like just putting balls and rings in my crib. So, I think they certainly had an influence. But at the same time, like, they never really forced me. Like, they used to take me to watch because Dad was working for Basketball Queensland. So I used to go watch QBL games and NBL games and all that stuff back then. So I was always around it. And I guess I was interested in other sports. Like I did little athletics and a few other things like that. But basketball was always like exciting for me.
Yeah.
You mentioned like obviously how you were playing 6 nights a week. When did you like first like getting those offers to play for rep teams and for state teams as well?
It started, very young. Like I want to say 10 or 11, because the under 10, the under 12 state team. It was like a school state team down in Canberra had a tournament. So from that point on, really, like I was playing rep from under 12s all the way through under 18s every single year. I was trying to make a state team every single year. The only years that didn't have that were under 14s. And in under 14s is club nationals. So I was on a very good Brisbane club team. And both years we went to nationals, which means we trained all the way to state classics, played state classics, did well, and then trained all the way to nationals. So, I mean, you probably had a month break from, 1 year to the next, because after nationals, you get a little bit of a break and then trials start for the next season. So that's what I mean. It just never stopped. Like it was fine. It was cool. But looking back, I was like, man, like we played a lot of basketball.
Yeah. It's like 6 nights a week, Jesus. I mean, I can barely concentrate for like 20 minutes. Imagine trying to concentrate for 6 nights a week.
Yeah, it
for
was
just
nuts.
like straight basketball.
Yeah.
So like, as a kid, like who were your basketball idols? Like who did you try to style your game after? Like model your game after?
there was a few people I really liked watching. Sam McKinnon, I really enjoyed watching. And my dad, who was a decently high-level coach at the time, used to talk about Sam McKinnon a lot. So I was like, oh, it'd be cool to do what Sam did. But Brad Newley was someone that I tried to kind of model myself after, I guess. Our family knew Brad's family from Alice Springs, actually. And so they were good friends. And I kind of watched and heard about every single time that Brad did something. It was like, oh, Brad's in the NBL now. Like, oh, Brad just got drafted. Or curious. I used to always be like, man, that's so sick that he did that. And then I'd watch him play for Australia. So he was someone that I tried to kind of model my game on a little bit in terms of just like energy, effort, and versatility.
Other than basketball players, do you have like any other like sports icons that you're like, oh, like their mentality or the way they approached it was something that you really looked up to?
Outside of basketball, I used to like to watch a lot of cricket, and I still do. And I don't mind the test matches because I love seeing the dudes just dig in for 8 hours. Like the mentality behind that. And I think it's something that as a kid, I just like watching because I like the sport. But as I got a little bit older, I started to appreciate the mental battles that you have to, like you're standing out there just copping these balls for 8 hours and the dude's not out. Like it's mental. And especially when, you know, they're playing in places like the subcontinent, like India and stuff like that, where any ball can just fly anywhere. So for me, like as I got older, I was like, man, those dudes that just dig in and don't get out really impressed me. So I think from a mental side, definitely cricket.
As a kid, who was like that one cricketer you looked up to?
Pardon?
Like when you were younger, who was that one cricketer at the time that was just like, you know, the star player of the team? Like, was it Ricky Ponting or?
Yeah, Ponting for sure. Glenn McGrath was cool.
McGrath.
Because again, my dad had actually, Glenn was a good basketball player. Dad actually coached Glenn back in New South Wales. So, so I had a bit of a story connection there where I was like, oh, sick. So I like watching Glenn, but probably batting Ricky Ponting. I mean, Gilly was entertaining because he just come out and whack everything.
And I was as a wicket keeper as well. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Big old warning to spin.
Yeah.
Can't get past him.
Great team.
What are you going to say, Taku? Can I cut you off?
Well, oh, no, it's all good. Yeah, you said the same thing I said. I was going to say.
Oh, yeah, thinking the same. So moving on to your teenage years, you know, in 2010 you attended the AIS. Like, what did the AIS do for you? Like, how was that beneficial to you in your basketball career?
It was a bumpy ride, to be honest. It was, beneficial to me, absolutely. I loved pretty much being on scholarship, going and living in a place where it was like I can eat. Like the dining hall when I got there, I was just amazed with. Like I see all this like good food and like, you know, you get over it. But like when you first arrive there, you're like, oh my, like I can eat however much I want, whatever I want. So like meal times are just the best. And then you've got the courts that are there 24/7. And that's something that you just don't have really anywhere else in Australia. Like we don't have indoor courts that are just open for you to go and shoot at whenever you want. And so that year I got more shots up than I ever have just because I could whenever I wanted. You know, on a weekend, on a Sunday, I'll just go shoot for hours and no one's going to tell you no. So I think that's the part that I loved about it. There are a few negatives in there and I struggled at times, but overall, I think just being able to just work on my game and work on my body, I got so much stronger that year. Probably put on a bit too much muscle compared to what I needed to do, but just working on myself, my game, my body.
So like I have a question. How did you get into the AIS? Was it like a tryout sort of thing, or did they find you?
Yeah, so I basically got offered a scholarship. I think I'd say it was based off my performance at Nationals playing for Queensland. I made a few junior Australian tours to, the Oceania tournaments and stuff, but I certainly wasn't a high minute guy. So I think it was really how I played for my state that probably earned that scholarship.
So then after AIS, you went to the Metropolitan State University in Denver between 2012 and 2015. What was that overall college experience in the US like?
Yeah, it was time of my life, man. It was so much fun. I think looking back, there's not much that I would do different, which is really cool. Obviously I met my now wife there. I had a successful career in terms of we won so many games. And you talk to other people about their college experiences, and just no one has the same winning percentage. So I was extremely lucky to be a part of that. And I got to improve my game. I became a better player. So, and I had a hell of a time in Denver, which is a really cool city. So it was just tick, 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 tick.
Everyone we speak to when we talk about university, they always go, man, yeah, college, college or university is the best time ever, they always speak about how good it is and how much fun they have there,
Especially in America, bro. Australia University sucks. I want to go to America.
I hate it.
I hate it here.
I hate it here. Karate Kid, what a movie. Anyway, so during your 3 seasons with the Roadrunners, you guys had back-to-back NCAA Division II Final Four appearances and a second place finish in 2013. So, making the NCAA tournament in the first place is huge, and we know that the atmosphere there is, it's just overwhelming. How did that? What was it like playing in the tournament that's so big across the nation?
Yeah, the D2 one works a little differently. You know how they have D1 kind of splits into they form regions, but the regions are just random teams that they've seeded. In D2, you literally have regions. So, you have the Texas, Colorado, New Mexico region. And and the winners of that, you have to win out of your region to play against another one. And so I think my freshman, so I guess in Division 2, it's cool to make the tournament, but the big one is the Elite Eight. If you can get to the Elite Eight, you can tick so much. It was not a fail in terms of the season. You did really well. So for us, freshman year, we made the Elite Eight and lost first round. Unfortunately, I was redshirted that year, but then the next year, we came second, lost the final, and the third year we lost the semi-final. So it was, again, like I said before, we were pretty spoiled with wins. Looking back now, I was man, I remember the losses and how we felt because it just didn't happen that often. So it was really, really cool. I guess during season, you don't feel like you're winning a lot because our coach, who was extremely important to my development, but he had his moments. And I think during the season, sometimes you feel like you're 0-10, and you're 10-0. So I think looking back, we had a lot of success, but that was probably because we just didn't let up, and he didn't allow us to let up on that.
So overall as a coach, he really helped you get through it, those tough times. He was a good coach.
Yeah, absolutely. He's not for everybody. I know lots of people have had a lot of different experiences with him. But I mean, I turn around and look at some of the people that have come out of the program, and I speak, for myself. I got better because he made me better every day. Right. I saw what Nick Kay was walking into college and what he's doing now. And I don't think it happens if he, if he doesn't have that development over 4 years at Metro. So yeah, it's just how it goes.
Right.
So then in 2015, you were named the NABC Player of the Year. What does it feel to have such an honor?
Oh man. I remember the phone call. because we didn't. So that year we lost the first game of the NCAA tournament. We lost, and I remember like it was such a bad year. Like I was sitting there like, man, it wasn't a bad year at all. Like there's so many schools that would kill to to make the tournament, but
exactly.
we were sitting like after being so spoiled. Like the last 2 years, especially, it was just like, oh, we'll just go Final Four, or you had a bad season. So for us, like I felt terrible being a senior. I made a couple mistakes, and I didn't have a terrific game in my last game. And my family was in town, or my mom and my sister. My now wife was there. We were in Texas, and I remember just sitting in the locker room, just crying, like this is, and that's the feeling of like this is over is overwhelming. Like all of the seniors, you all cry. Like it's just what you put 4 years, or at least 2 years usually, just training every day, going head to head, and then all of a sudden this feeling where it's like you're done. You're not playing this ever again. So I had that where I had this really down period where I was like, man, this sucks. I don't want to leave. And then I get a call 3 weeks later, maybe. I was just in Denver, and one of my assistant coaches was like, oh man, like, wouldn't it be cool if you get to go to the Final Four and stuff like that? And I was like, oh yeah, that'd be cool, I guess. Like, that'd be sweet. Like the Division I Final Four, if you win MVP, they fly you out there and like put you up for a few days and like basically they like, it's part of like winning the award. They like treat you. And so I was like, oh yeah, that'd be cool. He was like, yeah, cool. So you get to take someone with you. So who are you taking? I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh no, like you get to pick who you take because you won. I'm like, oh dude, like what? Like I was stunned, man. I was like, what?
So nonchalant about it.
It's like, oh yeah, you won. You won.
You just won like a very prestigious award,
You just won the award. And he's like, but don't say anything. It's not official yet, but I know you did. I'm like, oh, okay. So as a part of that, like I got to go play in the All-Star game, the D2 All-Star game, which was really cool. Had a few salty looks from dudes, but then after that, got to go to Indiana. After it was like officially announced. Oh man, it was just a surreal feeling, I guess, having thought that. I mean, I had a good year individually, and Nick Kay and I had pretty much identical stats. So I mean, he could have easily have won the award, and I would have been super happy for him. But I guess it was just like after the disappointment of like this is all over, it was a really nice reward, I guess.
When you look back at college, what's going to be like your most resounding memory?
So many. As I said, like the highs and lows were crazy. Like that's one of the highs, but also like that my sophomore year, so my first year of actually playing, and when we lost the final, that year was crazy. Like the high, as I said, winning that semi-final, we were not supposed to win that really. Like the team we were playing against scores like 120 something a game. Like they play so fast, and like college teams just don't do that. And everyone was predicting them to blow us out, and we beat them, and we just stunned them with this zone. And all the media and all the journalists were like, "Oh well, this is where they advance," and then we beat them. And I remember the feeling in the locker room, like, I mean, you boys might know, like when you play on a team and you put work into something, and all year you tell yourselves, like, if we do this, we will go far, and then it happens, and like that feeling of like it's happening, man. Like it's hard to describe, but I remember that.
And it's just like,
oh, dude, we won that game in that locker room, man. Like everyone's hugging, everyone's high fiving, like it's like yes. And then a few days later we fly to Atlanta and we have a 17-point lead at halftime. And we should have blown those dudes out, and we end up losing off some missed free throws, and the feeling in that locker room is the other end of the spectrum. Like people just sitting there crying, not like just motionless, staring at the ground. So I think like I remember that year especially because we had such good success. We had a great team, but in the span of a week, we had every feeling that you could have had. And that's probably what I'll remember basketball-wise. Off the floor, there are just too many memories to even name. So many good ones.
That's the worst because it's like you're so close to the top of the mountain, you're looking at it, and
Man.
just for that to happen, it's just hard. It's heartbreaking.
It was hard.
I choked my 3-1 lead in the finals, you know.
Oh,
Don't worry. I mean, LeBron would have took the 2 free throws. I'm not sure if Jordan would.
You're a clown, bro. That's why you flip flop like every episode.
Anyway, so moving on to your international career, you're named the Brumers. You're named to the Brumers team for the 2017 FIBA Asia Cup, where you guys got the gold medal. What was it like to represent your team for the first time?
Oh man, it was. I was so excited, so fortunate to be a part of that. There was a few injuries, and I would not have got picked. I certainly playing for Cairns at the time, and I wouldn't say I'd broke out or really shown what I could do yet in this league or in Australia. And I went to the camp, and I was okay. Like I had some pretty good days, but we had a couple of guys out, like Chris Golding, Kevin Lish, et cetera, that didn't put their hand up to play because of injuries. So there was a spot available, and I was still not expecting to get it. My family came up to the Gold Coast to see me, and we were going to go out for dinner. They were all waiting in the lobby expecting that I'd get a no and we'd all just go to dinner. And then they were like, I was like, I made it. So, you go have dinner because I got to stay here with the team. So it was really cool. Like just to see their faces too. My siblings, my mum and dad were just so excited for me. We've had a lot of national pride. That's been a goal of mine for a long time. And going away and seeing how the chemistry worked was really, really cool. Everyone just sacrificing parts of their game and giving up, what they usually do so that someone else could have more success, and just tearing apart some teams in that tournament. Just playing the Australian way was really, really fun.
Yeah. I feel like that's what divides a good team from a great team. Because you all had one goal to win. You all wanted to win the gold medal. Teams like USA, they've got too many they've got too many scorers. They've got their LeBrons, their KDs, their Steph Currys, who all have their own. They're all good, or they're all great, but I don't feel like they mash as a team. They don't have that same goal in mind. They all want to be great in their respective right and want to sacrifice their game. So that's why they don't go as far as they could. That's the difference between us and them.
Yeah, no, I think we, and even in that tournament, I think our top scorer was Creaky. I don't have the stats, but I think he only averaged 9 or 10. Everybody on the team averaged 9, 8, 7, 6. It was it didn't matter. And we didn't get a single dude in the All-Star 5 for that tournament. And I remember no one gave a shit. Everyone was sitting in the locker room just all right, cool. We won, so no one cares.
Yeah, rather have
it doesn't matter.
Again, man, that is a cool feeling. When you have people not giving a damn about individual awards and just stunned with the gold medal, you've got good chemistry.
I actually remember. Yeah, go.
Oh, and I was just gonna ask, how did they tell you that you've made the team? How did you find out that you were gonna go?
We had individual meetings, so this is usually how national teams are done, even from when I was very young. When I was very young, the very first FIBA Oceania team, they had everybody just sit and they just read the names out in front of everyone. I thought that was savage. When as you got into under 19s and further on, everybody has individual meetings and they tell you one-on-one, you made it, you didn't make it. And you basically have time slots that you're supposed to turn up at the meeting room. There was a hotel room, and everybody had 410, 420, 430, 440.
They're quick in succession.
Yeah, they're really quick. And then you just go up there, you get told yes, no, you might ask a question or two, or they might, if you didn't make it, you ask, what can I do better? Sometimes you're a little bit annoyed. If you did make it, then they might tell you this is the role that we want from you. We need to see a little bit more of this, and then it's done.
Okay.
So they're pretty quick and efficient with it when they're speaking to you.
Oh yeah, it's really quick because sometimes you've got squads of 20-something people. So say you've had a 4-day training camp or a 5-day training camp, and they're doing the team announcements on a Wednesday afternoon. Like guys fly out Wednesday night or Thursday morning. You don't hang around. So if you didn't make it, you're out.
Yeah, fair enough.
Makes sense, then. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So then, for that gold medal game, what was that just experience of getting to play in that gold medal game and then going on to win it?
Yeah, it was sick. Iran are a good team. They play very differently. They basically had a bunch of guys that have been on their national team for many, many years, and guys that have gone and played in Olympics and basketball World Cups and you name it. Iran has done it in terms of basketball just because of the region. They've been a powerhouse for a while now. So they had the same starting five for a good probably 5 to 10 years.
Oh wow!
And they know how to play with each other, and they don't use their bench barely at all. Or during that tournament, they didn't. So they play at their pace, and that's it. And they managed to win by doing that. They have a big dude. He's like 7'1" or whatever his name is, and he's huge. And so they kind of use him. They basically throw the ball to him, and he either posts up, and he is a mismatch against every team. Like he's a massive guy, and so and all the other guards then play off him because he's actually a pretty damn good passer too. So they'll throw the ball to him, and guys will just start running off his back or like making little cuts off the back door, and he finds them. And then if you're too lazy, he'll start backing down and working his own individual game. And they have this chemistry that's really hard to guard at times because they might not run an offense. They just throw it to him and they start running randomly. So for us, it was a good challenge to watch on film and say you really have to be locked in every possession. And if we keep the pace up, kind of like I said, the feeling at Metro when you've worked the whole year and in a game, you have that feeling where it's about to break. You play good defense, the scores are tight, first, second, third, and then it just goes and you're up 30. And I think that's what kind of happened against Iran. It was tight. They made some shots. They were making some plays. By the end of the game, man, the big fella was just walking, like not even running back on defense or, he subbed himself at one point. He just walked off the court. And so we just the way we played, the unselfish, we all played hard and it paid off.
Played the Australian way, really.
Yeah,
played the Australian way.
So in the FIBA World Cup qualifiers, you were one of 4 players to play the most qualifiers, which was with 10 games, and you averaged 7.3 points, 3.3 rebounds per game, whilst helping the Boomers qualify helping the Boomers qualify a top group 4 for the 2019 World Cup in China, right? So what was it like being a regular player for the Australian national team? You've been named every week.
Yeah, it was cool. I think I certainly wore the tag with knowing that the NBA guys weren't available. We copped a little bit of heat about, these guys aren't really Boomers yet because they don't, it's not a major tournament or the NBA guys aren't available. They're just filling spots. And, that is kind of true. We are, but at the same time, like, it doesn't mean like for us, like we're kind of the guys that play with so much national pride because it's like, man, like I just want to play for my country, whatever it takes. Like, I don't care if I get 1 minute, I don't care, whatever. Like, we know we're not all Patty Mills and they love playing for the country too. But, those guys get to play their best natural game, for the country. Joe Ingles goes and plays how Joe Ingles wants to. Because that's the level that they're at. For a lot of us guys, it's just like, I'll take a bottom of the bench spot just to play on the national team. So I think just being a part of that every single tour, playing new teams, going to new countries, like that's the life. Like that's what we worked for.
Right.
So does when you play for like the national team, does that interfere with the NBL season?
So there's some FIBA regulations in place. It kind of, back in the day, it never used to be like this. Soccer's been like this for a while, where you have these like
The international break.
international breaks. Basketball started doing it a few years ago, and that's why now because we joined the Asia region. So now, unless you're playing in Euro Cup or Euro League or the NBA, so those leagues don't stop. But any FIBA governed competition stops, and then you go and play. Your countries have games, and then you return to your teams, and they usually happen November, February, and I think there's one in the middle of the year around June-ish.
Okay, yeah.
And that's
Makes
every
sense.
year.
Yeah, it just helps. Like, and now now that we're in Asia, like we have to qualify for the Asia Cup, and then you have to qualify for the World Cup through the Asia Cup, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So like they need to have multiple tournaments to be able to decipher who is actually on top, rather than just seeding a team at the top. Like they kind of, Australia would play New Zealand, on one weekend a few times, and they'd crown that guy Oceania King. Just doesn't work that way anymore.
Yeah, no. So, following your college, you played one season in Spain's second division. What was it like getting to play international basketball?
It was so cool. So cool. It was really different. I mean, it would take a long time to explain. But like my role was very different. It was a lot more, I was playing with a lot of older guys who could really play. But again, they wanted to play at their pace. And I'm fresh out of college, my first import job. I'm like, let's go, let's run, and they're like, no. Like, you go in the corner and wait. So I had to learn to score without the ball. Work on my cutting, work on just running a lane, rebounding and getting out and starting a fast break. Those were the ways that I got to score. I didn't get on-ball screens. I didn't get plays necessarily run for me with the ball up the top. It was more like, if a play was for me, it was a backdoor or a lob or something like that. So I guess that was a good challenge for me to work on my game without the basketball. And also just to really earn my teammates' trust, when a lot of them, they spoke English, but it wasn't obviously their first language, and I didn't speak Spanish. So it was hard, trying to settle into a very small town with an older population. A lot of waiters and waitresses did not speak English and weren't that interested in doing so. So I'm ordering random things and hoping it turns out good, and learning some hard lessons that way.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, trying to like talking to the coach would have been hard as well. Like trying to get plays done as well, wouldn't it?
So the coach spoke enough English. Our assistant coach spoke it well.
Right.
So he would often translate, like the head coach, when he wanted to speak passionately, would speak in Spanish, and he would translate it. It was really funny. Like at the time I felt almost bad, because you'd be in a team meeting and the head coach would be like, saying his bit in Spanish, and then he'd take like a break, and then in English, the assistant coach would repeat it. It just makes the meetings like 2 times longer. And all the Spanish guys, would probably get over that. But as the year went on, we got used to more and more Spanish words. And you, especially the basketball terms, you get used to. So that, they would say rebote, and they didn't have to say rebound anymore. I just knew that meant rebound. So it got a little easier.
What was your best experience getting to live in Spain?
I think just living on my own in another country, like the USA is obviously westernized, so it's like it wasn't that hard. Spain, I just had to really look after myself. I had to look after I was getting paid for the first time in my life, like earning a salary. So I had to manage that. I actually didn't open a bank account. I wasn't on that much money. And I just kept it in envelopes and just hid it around my apartment. But which my mum hated. But it's just how, I had to look after myself. I had to know what I was doing, manage my own schedule. No one else was going to tell me what to do. And I didn't have, I had team times that I had to be at things, but unlike college where, they have a team van that drove you places and we all got in that. You get yourself to practice, you get yourself back, and you manage your own schedule, and your success will be based on how well you do that. So that was a cool time in life for me.
Right. So after you signed 2-year deal with the contract with the Cairns Taipans, is that what they're called?
Yep.
Yeah, I was just having like a brain fade.
Yeah, I was like,
I was trying to, I had my tongue twisted when I was trying to say it. I was like Cairns. I was like, it's not Cairns, it's Cairns. But what was the first behind coming back to Australia?
It was cool. Cairns is a really cool place. Like I mean, I don't know if you guys have been there. It's really chill. 5 minutes to get everywhere. Had a lot of lovely people help me out when I was there. So I think just in terms of settling into the culture, I had great teammates, guys like Cam Glidden and Jared Weeks, who are still some of my closest mates today. Are just awesome dudes, and they helped me settle into the NBL really easily. There were some challenges for us as a lower budget NBL team, and how we had to play, but yeah, it was a really cool time for me, and I developed a lot over those 2 years.
What was that like first taste of? Because you said you grew up watching like the NBL. What was that like first taste of getting to play like in the league you've watched like growing up?
Yeah, it was challenging, I think, because like with the way that our roster was, like we couldn't really afford, like we had a good team, but like if we didn't play well, we didn't win. So we knew we had to play really well. We knew we had to execute the way that we wanted to play. And I think that was really the challenge, like just making sure we held a standard every single game, and finding out that, you know, the NBL is a really good league.
Right.
And I think the NBL, it's growing as well. Like you're gonna see a lot more.
Oh, it's getting so big now. Yeah.
It's getting bigger now. Yeah, I reckon.
I reckon, especially with do we know when the NBL is going to come back after like this whole unprecedented times?
No, we don't. We have very little idea. I don't think it'll be as bad as some people have said, but if it started in October, I'd be surprised, just because of the government, not necessarily, you know, it, like especially the Victorian government, like
yeah,
they're going to be slow about letting it back in.
We're so strict down here, man. It's terrible. Yeah. Oh, it's not terrible. I'm with it.
That's good and bad.
Talk for another time. Because it'd be too hard with like people trying to fly between state to state as well, like trying to play games. That's like the only thing I can think of the issue, you know.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of complications. Not just, you know, the biggest one is, can we have spectators inside an arena? Because if we can't have that, then the league can't really go forward. And so then there's all those little things about the travel, the schedule, the time frame, everything.
Do the fans affect you playing? Like, is there a big difference playing with the fans than without the fans? Like, you still feel the pressure?
I've only played a couple of games like without fans.
Yeah.
It's not boring, but it's not the same. It's just not the same. You miss that, like, especially like if you go on the road, like at home you love the fan support, you want the place to be loud. If you go on the road, like, you want to kind of be heckled a little bit. You kind of want that like chip on your shoulder. Like if you don't have that, it's like,
you want that fuel.
It's like, hate me, please. I want to like prove you wrong.
Hate me. Give me the fuel. Give me the energy. I
let me quiet you down real quick.
Yeah, there's nothing better than like hitting the dagger three. You just look at the crowd. Shushing the crowd. Yeah. Because then it'd be me. I'd be too scared. I'm gonna get like the car. I'm going to my car in the car park later, and some fan just comes and hits me because I shushed him.
We got the whole team there to back up.
Have you ever had an experience like that where a fan's like come and see you after a game, or they've heckled you like just in public generally?
I haven't been attacked, but I've certainly had people waiting just to say something, or I don't know whether they wanted to fight. I don't know what. Half the time you don't really care. You know, like as basketball players, we're supposed to just, you know, once it's done on the court, you let it go. Obviously, fans take it pretty pretty
Yeah,
personally
that's the one.
sometimes when you hurt their team, especially if they put money on the game, they really don't like that. So
It's like
they're probably the most violent people. The
Big
ones
old Gev.
that lost money.
it's like my hate for Nikola Jokic. Ever since he hit that dagger against the Timberwolves, I've hated him. I hate Nikola Jokic with a passion. He's
Nikola
never
Jokic
done
is
anything
the
wrong
best
to
center
me.
in the
I
league.
just hate him.
Best center in the league, in my opinion.
Lies. No, he's not better than. No, we're not even arguing about this. Because
Steven Adams is better.
it's
You're
not
right.
true. It's not true.
Steve Adams is better. The big Kiwi. I love him. He's so awesome. But anyway, so in the 17-18 NBL season, you had your best campaign, finishing 7th in MVP voting while putting up 11.2 points, 6.7 rebounds, and 2.9 assists per game, and one steal per game. What was it like performing at such a high level throughout the year? Like, how's that like that feeling? You know, coming like finishing 7th in your MVP voting. Like, did you feel like a sense of accomplishment in the season?
Yeah, it was a funny feeling. I think because throughout the year, like I certainly wasn't sitting there thinking like, oh, I'm one of the most dominant players in the league. Like we didn't win, like Cairns teams, like traditionally until they kind of changed things up in terms of Mike Kelly on there and they recruited Melo Trimble. Like traditionally speaking, like Cairns would have some really good players, but you didn't win by just riding one guy's performance. We won by keeping teams score down and making big plays at the end of games, and you'd get multiple contributors the way that we move the ball. You weren't going to have a guy go get 30 every night. And especially that second year, we had a lot of injury problems, like Mike Carrera, who was an absolute live wire, went down, and that really hurt our group because that meant now I'm playing permanent 3-man. Our one-man, Scoochie Smith, was kind of struggling for consistency. You know, he'd have moments and he didn't really get how to succeed within our system. And so you had 2 imports that were basically giving us very little, and then our third import, who is my guy, but Nana Egwu, just everything that an Australian team would want in an import, I'll tell you that. Like, just a top bloke. But again, like not a guy that we go to on offense. You know, we're not running our stuff through him like a Nate Jaiwai. So for us, you know, we had our 3 import spots that were kind of not our go-to guys. So all of a sudden, you know, Cam Glidden needs to get more opportunities. I got more opportunities. Alex Loughton had a hell of a year. And I remember kind of looking, you know, we didn't end up making finals, which sucked. So I wasn't sitting there thinking like, oh, wow, I was 7th best in the league. It certainly didn't feel like that. I guess it was just circumstantial. You know, we had to step up and do a little bit more to win some games because even though we weren't running plays for Mitch McCarron, like I knew that we weren't going to get much from Scoochie because he just didn't understand how to score within our system. So I guess it was good for me to show a little bit more about what I can do with the ball in my hand, and that probably helped me get, you know, to Melbourne. But I certainly wasn't sitting there on MVP night. I was sitting there like 7th. Like, what?
They're reading at the votes. They're like, oh, damn, I did well. Like
Yeah.
yourself, like, you clap a bit for yourself. Like, everyone's clapping for MVP, and you're just like sitting there clapping for yourself, you know?
Yeah. I'm proud of myself.
Yeah.
So, following that NBL season, you had a stint with Petro Olympia. I don't know how to say it. I was thinking
Slovenia.
in the Slovenian league, and we actually won the league title. So what was that like experience getting to play in the Slovenian league and sort of check your talents over there?
Oh, dude. It was really funny. I'll keep it really short, but the sequence of events, I was playing for Australia in against Chinese Taipei and someone else. I forgot who it was. In Melbourne. So we'd finished the NBL season and we had the Australian games. And I was set to play Commonwealth Games. And I was speaking to my agent. Calls me. It was Saturday morning, and we had a game on Sunday. Our final game for Oz on Sunday, and then we were meant to fly back to our cities on the Monday. Saturday morning, my agent rings me and he goes, "You're not playing Commonwealth Games." And I'm like, excuse me? Like,
What?
like that's something I've wanted, like, since I was a tiny kid. I'm like, what? And he's like, no, we have a contract offer from a team in Slovenia, Olimpia Ljubljana, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, okay, like, how long do we have? And he goes, 24 hours. And I'm like,
Jeez,
oh,
that's not much time.
crap, like 24 hours to give him a yes. And he's like, I need to know by the end of the day. Otherwise, it was an immediate thing. They had an injury. They needed to sort someone quickly. And obviously, it takes a day or two for me to fly, plus organizing time. So I remember sitting there and I had to speak to Andre, the coach, and I spoke to Luke Longley, and I just said, I feel terrible because I don't want to pull out. I don't want to pull out of the Commonwealth Games team, but this might be a really good thing for my career. And they both said, go do it. So I signed with Olimpia. I flew back Monday morning. Oh, my mum was in town for the Australia game, and she was all like, oh, so when do you come back to Brisbane? I'm like, yeah, I'm not. I'm going to Slovenia.
How do you
Monday,
tell your mum that?
yeah. Oh, she was like, what? Monday morning, this is crazy. Monday morning, I flew back to Cairns. We had our Mad Monday on the Monday. So I flew back to Cairns. We had a fun day. It was great. Tuesday morning, flew back to Melbourne because we had the MVP dinner for the league that year. So we flew back to Melbourne, stayed the night there. I had that dinner. Wednesday morning, wake up, fly back. We had our Cairns Taipans MVP dinner on the Wednesday evening. So I didn't have any time to pack up my house until getting back Wednesday afternoon. I had about 3 hours, and I was flying out 6 a.m. Thursday morning to go to Slovenia. So I had to pretty much go to the Taipans dinner, race home. Like, I didn't go out or anything like that. Race home. I had to pack my entire apartment up in Cairns, load up my car, give the keys to someone so my dad could fly up and drive my car back to Brisbane. And I remember just being in a massive rush to get to Slovenia because I had basically 5 hours to pack my whole life up. And then, flew to Slovenia, and it was so cool. Loved it. They were so great. Treated me really well. Car was ready. House was ready. As soon as I got there, I arrived in shorts because I was just in the Middle East and it was 40 degrees. And then I arrived in Croatia and there was a snowstorm, and the GM of the club was just like, who have we signed? Like, look at this idiot. He's in shorts. So, yeah, it was cool. Really cool.
That's crazy. That whole sequence of events is... Oh, yeah.
The scene of events is crazy. But I was saying, I mentioned we were from funny Brisbane, Queensland area, to Slovenia snowstorm.
Yeah, it was just I was so hot on the plane. I had sweatpants on, but I took them off because I'm like, man, I'm sweating. And then when you land in the Middle East and you get off the plane, you got to walk outside, and that is hot.
It's even worse.
Yeah,
it's so hot. And so I'm sweaty. So I took everything off, and then I land in the snowstorm, and honestly, the looks they gave me, they're like, man, you are what? Where do you think you are?
Look at this guy.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god. So then you guys won the title. What was that like?
It was crazy. It was. I said this the other day. We should have probably wrapped that series up much quicker than we did, and I mean that with all respect to Kirko, the other team, but because they were a really good team. But in terms of talent, I think we should have won the series in 3. I got injured in game 1, and I think, and not to sit here and just talk about myself, but I think because I was playing point guard and I was important to make sure everyone else got their touches. In game 2 and 3, we kind of really struggled with that, just finding an identity of how we were going to score it. And we had plenty of other guys to put the ball in the basket, but putting them in the right positions just wasn't quite happening. We had another guy who played point guard off the bench, who was a good scorer himself. And we actually had a pretty good combination playing 1-2 together. So when it was a full-time one job, I think the group was just a bit more used to where I was going to be, and I would give them the ball in certain spots. And a bit of chemistry that way. So when I got injured game 1, I missed game 2 and 3, and we lost on the road, and then we lost at home. So we were down 1-2, sorry. And our club was freaking out because they're just like, no, you win. And so I'm like, game 4, like I couldn't bend my arm. I'd like hyperextended it and I couldn't like bend it properly. So I just strapped it up for game 4. And so that it basically couldn't move back and forth. It was just locked into a certain place. And I played game 4 on the road and we won. It was a battle, but because this was a really physical team, I said the other day, like, they were the Detroit Pistons of the Slovenian League. Like they had some talented dudes, and like I'm not taking anything away from them, but they took every chance they had to beat you up. And so for us, we were already battered and bruised, so it was a tough win for us. And then game 5 went into overtime, and we won. It was a young guy, a little guy from Croatia who could really shoot, and he made a few big buckets for us. But just the slog of going like, we are down 1-2 and we had advantage, and are we going to win? And we're supposed to win. It was crazy.
Then moving on to going back to Melbourne this season, you guys unfortunately lost to the Sydney Kings. What was that like experience like for you? Like losing to the Kings
It sucked. It was a bit of another roller coaster time, because game 1 we felt like we let ourselves down. Game 2 we had one of the craziest games in the history of my career. I've never seen anything like that. To beat a team of that quality by 50-something points, I just like, I don't know what happened even now. And then you go to game 3 in Sydney, and we had early foul trouble, and just struggled to get a rhythm throughout the game. And again, another really close one. Made a few mistakes I'd love to take back, but at the same time, I think it was just such a hard-fought series. We led for so much of it, and really we should have probably won it, but they've got a lot of experienced guys, and they made things happen and made big shots, so credit to them. But yeah, it was another roller coaster.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, for Melbourne, you know, next season.
We'll be good next year.
So then, you're coming off a good season, averaging 9 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists.
3 rebounds, 6
my brain.
6 rebounds.
6 rebounds. When you reflect on this season, how do you like look at your individual performances, and how do you think you went?
I'll rephrase it. Let me. Do you pride yourself on the individual performance or the team's performance more?
Oh, I mean the team. I don't like. I care. I shouldn't say I don't care. I do care about like my stats, but I don't in the scheme of things. Like in the end, like if I had bad numbers and we won, then I'm smiling at the end of the game. You know, professional sports can be a bit of a weird one that way. There is a balance to find where if you constantly have bad numbers and you're still winning, that's not. If your role is to have better numbers than that, it's not necessarily good. You know. So it's a hard mental battle there to sometimes accept maybe I am not getting the stats, but I'm happy that I'm winning. But I also need to continue to get better. It's a hard mindset to stay in. But for me, who's someone, I don't really, you know, drive myself on stats. I just want to play hard, and I want to help the team in various areas. I want to defend, and I want to help be a leader of the team and the club. So those aren't going to be things that show up in the stats. And if someone came up to me and said, "Oh, you know, your stats are trash," it's not going to hurt my feelings, because I know what I do.
The team wants.
Yeah, I know what I do. I know whether I help the team win or not. And when I go home at night, I answer those questions myself.
You know, role players, they're very underrated players in the game, you know. As long as you play your role, the team should succeed.
That's it.
So you're currently playing with some big name players like Chris Golding, Sean Long, and Casey Prasser. What's that like? Do you gain any like experience or gain any knowledge of them from their experience?
Yeah, definitely. We had a wild year with with injuries and form and consistency. So, I mean, this year alone, I feel like I have learnt so much. Being around those guys, being around Casey for the first time. I've always used to be playing against Casey. So being around him and then the energy that he brings and seeing how disappointing it was for him. You read these trolls online, like, they're like, oh, Casey, like, not doing anything, doesn't, like, man, the guy was devastated. Like, he every time he would work his butt off, be fit, he'd be cleared, he'd train, and then something would happen, and he's like, oh, sorry, mate, you're gonna have to miss another 6 to 8 weeks. Like, he would be in tears. And so to go through that as someone, I'm meant to be a leader, and I've got to help him through that. And then you get a guy who's brand new to the club, Sean Long, very young, just full of charismatic energy, and just rides the wave of emotion. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and sometimes he gets upset and sometimes he gets really happy. And just being around him and how to play best for him. And then a guy like Mello, who is very even keel, doesn't give you a lot of emotion, he doesn't really give you too much in terms of like face. He just keeps straight face sometimes. So just learning from those guys and how to help make them better players. And then at the other end, you've got guys like Chris Golding and David Barlow who have been there, done that in every regard. And they've always got great advice to pass on.
I think one thing I've learned from like talking to like all the professional athletes, like these guys, you guys like you see this stuff, and I think people miss that element when they say like these things online. They're like, oh, so and so, they suck. But it's like you guys, like, you made it there. You know what you've done. It's just like sometimes people just forget that we're all in this and like miss that element sort of thing.
They miss the element that there's a process and there's a grind to get to where you are. Like you don't just wake up one day and I'm a professional athlete now. Now I'm here. You've got to like put in some work and stuff.
It's like your life.
Don't understand that. People don't understand it. It's just frustrating to hear when they go, "Oh, this person sucks." It's like, no, he doesn't. Like, he's a professional.
I mean, Jokic does suck, but Jokic does suck.
I'd like to see you go when I'm on with Jokic, right?
I'll clamp him. I'll clamp Jokic. Right?
It's that. And you get, again, like, it's not. I could go online right now and read a post about how Mitch McCarron sucks. It's not going to affect the way I feel. But like other guys, it does, and it sucks because you see it. Fans in professional sports, like, they love having their bit to say, and maybe it is their right, but it's not. You compare it to, like, say, an accountant. Accountant sits there and compares numbers for a living. There is a right and a wrong answer. There is no variance in performance. It's just, you do this and that's the answer, and this is my job. If you were to take any person in life, put them in a sporting venue once a week and say, do the same thing every week with the same succession rate, it doesn't happen. In no level, in no league, no guy shoots the same percent every game. Every guy has a bad game. No. And so you're going to get that, and you see other people like, oh, Steve Kerr was trash. Like, come on, man. Like, the dude, you don't, and that's like you're saying, like, people want to evaluate the person for what he did in that moment. They don't realize, like, how he had to grind to get to there. Like, a small little white guy out of nowhere doesn't get a place next to Jordan on the Bulls without having some stuff to him. Like, it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. The old bad Jordan.
Like I said, I'd rather be Steve Kerr. I'm just on the bench. He was a starting point guard.
So you would rather be Steve Kerr over Michael Jordan?
No, I never said that. I never said that.
You said that.
I just said I'd rather be Steve Kerr than, like, I don't know. I don't know. Leave me alone.
No, I'd rather be. Steve Kerr's never spoken to me before, so I got that.
So as your career keeps going, do you have any goals that you have set that you want to, like, look back and say that you've accomplished those?
Yeah, there's a couple. One of them I've already ticked off, and that's make a living as a professional. I have done better than I ever could have predicted, to be honest. And there's a lot of people to thank for that. My parents, my peer group around me, my agent has been incredible in his direction of how I should attack this career. But I think some goals to still tick off. I haven't won an NBL championship. I've won 2 in Europe and none here, which hurts. I haven't made a world tournament for the senior men's national team. FIBA Asia Cup, but in terms of the major tournaments, like a World Cup and an Olympics, that's something that I would love to do. It's getting harder and harder because we've got so many bloody good players coming out of this country. But
well, no, it's crazy these days.
That's a goal. And then I think for me, in terms of a mental one, is just to reach my potential. I don't know what that is in terms of a number. I don't know what that is in terms of how I look when I play, but I don't feel like I've reached it quite yet. So yeah, that's the goal.
Championship for Melbourne, you know.
Yeah.
Championship for Melbourne. Good old Melbourne. Now, moving to a very important question here, right?
There's only one right answer.
No, there's. Yeah, you're right. There is only one right answer. Who is your NBA GOAT?
My NBA GOAT.
Yeah, the GOAT. The greatest of all time. And I need reasoning.
Okay. So the argument, the argument of LeBron versus Mike is funny because to me, I think all time, like Michael is hard to push him off the ledge because of what he did, how he changed the game, how he changed not just the NBA, but the game of basketball and how it's branded. So his impact is so large off the court. And obviously on the court, it's incredible, but he had some dudes around him. LeBron is a lot more relatable to me because I think I would prefer to play with a LeBron than an MJ. In terms of when I see how they interact with their teammates, I think MJ looks like a much tougher guy to be around every single day. And that's not like MJ. MJ is one of the greatest of all times, if not the. But in terms of would I prefer to play with someone, I think it'd be LeBron. You see the way that he took Delly under his wing and the way that Delly talks about LeBron. Compared to if Delly had been playing again with Michael Jordan, I think it'd be a different conversation. So I think I respect LeBron, and that might just be a sign of the times. It was a bit tougher back then, but I think I probably put LeBron as in terms of what he has done and how right out of college, right out of high school. I mean, he was a grown man, but. Yeah, just a grown man coming into the league and just being, all right, I'm here. I know MJ did that too, but LeBron was built like a man.
Yeah, he's 6'9", 6'9".
So
6'9", 260. Jesus.
I hate to be a fence sitter, but I mean, in the same conversation, I'd put Larry Bird up there because of his
what?
The way that he played the game.
Parrot.
So
Parrot disrespects Larry Bird so much.
No, I do not.
Yes, you do.
No,
you disrespect Larry Bird.
I love Larry Bird. He's a baller.
Man, Larry is so good. No one will ever compare to Larry Bird. He's in MJ and LeBron and Kobe and all those guys. I see them in a different conversation because Larry, in my eyes, like the way that he played the game was smart, like so smart.
Didn't have to use athleticism. It was more like that finesse to it. Yeah,
Larry plays like KD.
Shut up, bro. Stop saying blasphemous things. I swear to God. You like to troll.
No, I hate trolling. What are you on about? Nah, but Larry Bird was pretty decent, I'd say.
Pretty incredible.
No, he was. You know what? They're all incredible in their own respective rights. But in the same sentence, we all forget about Wilt Chamberlain scoring 100 points and not putting him in the GOAT conversation.
Wilt was incredible. Wilt was incredible.
But it's easy to be incredible when they're 7 foot and everyone else.
I hate to be that guy, but there was like 13 teams when Wilt was playing. So
Yeah, same with Bill Russell.
and he got
People
clamped
still call
by Bill Russell. He got clamped by Bill Russell.
Bill Russell has 11. Bill Russell has 11
Yeah,
rings. What do
but
you
to be
want?
fair, Bill Russell played with like 6 Hall of Famers. So take
Yeah,
what you will. Take
Yeah.
what you will.
Havlicek, was it?
Yeah.
Havlicek,
Yeah,
Cousy.
John Havlicek played for the Celtics.
Man, absolute ballers. So what was looking back at your career now, what was your favorite memory of so far, like playing? What was your favorite memory of your playing career? Damn,
Man, I think the championships have to go up there. Spain was, I won't get into it, but just some wild games. And you know, like they've got so many guys, like older guys who kind of look like, oh, they can't do anything, and then they just can shoot the piss out of the ball, or they just like they're super smart and they know how to play with each other, so they can go on these massive runs and these momentum waves. And I think probably that I'm always going to remember that year because it was my first year as a pro. I was in foreign land and just had no idea, what to expect. And the crowd, our home crowds were so cool. They'd sing their songs and it was always a full crowd, and they just wanted to love you as a person. They really wanted to know you as a person. And I say that, like multiple people would come up to me after games and just ask, oh, how are you? Like, how do you like Spain? How do you like this? Like they didn't even ask about the game of basketball. Like they were just like, do you like Spanish food? Can I bring you some Spanish food? So that was a really cool memory for me.
How did you so you went to Spain after university. How did you get that sort of offer to go from Denver to Spain?
So I got an agent, and I went and did a bunch of NBA workouts. And after that, I played in the World Uni Games, but my agent basically told me, look, we can go and chase a minimum deal in the NBL. There's a couple other deals here in Poland. There's a couple other yada, yada, yadas. And he said, but I think the best for you is to go to this team in Spain and win. And it'll do really well to set you up for a good contract the next year. And he said, like, we're playing for chips. Like, it's not, the money is nothing, but we're going to make the money later. So don't worry about that now. And that's what I meant by, like, his direction. Like, it would have been really easy for me to be like, nah, what's the highest amount of money I can earn my first year out of college, and I'll take it. And that probably doesn't leave me where I am today.
For your championships, did you get rings or do you have medals?
We didn't get rings. We got medals, but we got, like, the club basically gave us, like, we got the trophy obviously, but then we got given, like, the club gave us watches as well. So they were like these really nice watches on top of, like, the league giving us, like, a medal. So that was a nice gift from the club as well.
All right. Do you still rock the watch?
I don't. I actually don't know where it is.
I can just imagine like expensive watch just floating around somewhere.
I don't usually wear them, man. So I think it's still in my mum's house somewhere. I've got it. I don't know where it is.
Yeah, I mean, I can barely read analogy as well, so I don't wear watches as much. I'm always like 20 to 3. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, do you still get nervous about games, like professional games?
I think anxious is probably a better word to describe how I feel.
Right.
I don't so much get nervous at the moment, in terms of a little bit scared. I'm just so excited, and I've been thinking about it all day. I like to play PS4, especially like if it's a home game. I like to play PS4 just to think about something else. Like,
he knows what's up.
Athletes are just like us.
Yeah, but like otherwise, I just sit, like, if I don't, I just sit there all day thinking about the game. Like I'm like, oh man, I want to play. So if I don't have something that, like, drastically, if I'm not playing Assassin's Creed and thinking about the Greek world, like I'm thinking about the game, and it's just like an overload. So it's important to have that.
What are those games that what are you rocking on PS4 then? Like, what games are you usually on?
Well, I'm waiting. I'm playing a bit of Remnants right now, but I'm waiting for Last of Us 2 to come out, and Ghost of Tsushima looks incredible. So those two, and then Assassin's Creed Valhalla at the end of the year.
What about God of War? Have you played that yet?
Oh my! One of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, seriously, that game that was insane. Should have won game. Did it win Game of the Year? Can't remember.
No.
Spider-Man. Spider-Man won it.
Spider-Man was good though. Spider-Man was so good.
Yeah, there's no God of War though.
I think my top has to be Horizon Zero Dawn. I loved.
Yeah, I never got around to it.
Even now, it still looks amazing. So Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War. You probably put an Assassin's Creed up there, and The Witcher 3 was also incredible.
Oh, Witcher 3 was good. Witcher 3 was really good.
Yeah, I'd probably put Assassin's Creed. It'd go. I'm trying to think. Like my favorite one. The one with Connor, I think it was number 3. I think it was Assassin's Creed 3 was really good. The one with Connor and Haytham. That was probably my favorite.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But I'm different because I've got the Egyptian one. That one.
Yeah. Oh, Odyssey. No, that's not Odyssey.
Yeah. Origins. That's mine.
Because
that's the only one I got into. I bought that one and I finished it. That was like the only one I got into.
That's the year that they changed the gameplay in the Assassin's Creed that year. Yeah. That was so weird for me. I remember I was like, I can't play this. It was like Black Flag. No, Black Flag was illegal as well. Black Flag was really fun. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Ezio, and he was a god. I've got all of them. We're getting so off topic.
Yeah, you just keep talking about Assassin's Creed.
I don't know. I keep on naming games. Like, once I get it into my head, I just can't get it out.
Yeah.
I'm just a nerd. I'm just a big nerd.
Would you like say? Do you have any like specific pre-game routines that you go through, or superstitions like wearing a sweatband on your right arm or something like that?
Nah, I am the least superstitious person. I'm atheist in terms of beliefs. I don't have any religious affiliate. I don't have any superstitious affiliate. So there's nothing for me. Like, a lot of guys like to say prayer, or a lot of guys like to. Some guys brush their teeth. Some guys need to get taped a certain hour. Like, it's just everyone's got their thing. I don't have anything. I guess I have like a routine in terms of like getting ready, and like when I put my, uniform on, when I get taped, and yada yada yada. But if that had to change, it wouldn't put me off.
Well, I think everyone we've talked to, they've all said that they don't have superstitions. So I wonder, do people still have superstitions? Like,
man,
I still do.
You know who you need to interview about superstitions? Josh Boone.
Josh Boone.
Put him on the list. Put him on the list.
He might not share them, but that's a superstitious guy right there.
There are so many people we want to talk to, because everyone we talk to, they're always legends,
Yeah.
So we ask our fans to ask us questions that they want to ask you.
Sure.
And that was a tongue twister of a sentence for me. So this first one's from Joel Newitt. He says, your career has taken you all over the world, but what was your favorite place to play ball?
Slovenia was sick in terms of the area. Like, Ljubljana is such a gorgeous city. But I think Spain. I think the culture shock. I think the culture shock in Spain, and the crowd. The crowd was something special.
Surreal.
Wait, when you're in Spain, did you get a chance to go to a soccer game?
I didn't, man. As I said, I was barely earning anything, and I looked at El Clasico tickets, and I was like, that's like a week's pay.
They're expensive as.
Oh my goodness, and I really wanted to. I went to Madrid numerous times, and there was a lot of games on. But yeah, I just never made it.
That would have been like peak. That would have been like the
peak Ronaldo. That would have been peak Ronaldo. Yeah.
That would have been like Benzema, Ronaldo, Bale.
The money being spent on El Clasico tickets, like people were spending hundreds of euros, and I'm like, man, I just can't do that right now.
Because it's so big for them. Because
it's
like
everything.
Soccer. I'll say football for now. Football's so big for them, It's like
It
their
is.
life over there almost.
Oh, so everybody loves it. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was. I should have gone.
Oh, hopefully once this whole thing's over,
But
there'll
then
be more
it's not
games.
going to be the same because Ronaldo's not at Real Madrid anymore, and it's
Yeah.
just like.
Yeah, but
But even the Barcelona now isn't the same team that they used to be.
Yeah,
Barcelona's
I can't watch Spanish soccer anymore because Messi's not where he used. Like he won the Ballon d'Or, but he's not where he used to be. Like 2012 Messi was just something else.
for what 91 goals in. That's crazy. 91 goals in a count. All right, I'm gonna go on a rant if I don't stop myself.
Like imagine watching Dimitri Payet, the best.
Oh my no! Stop! Stop!
You know what? This is a basketball podcast. Anyway, this question was from this question was from Matt Werndl. He goes, "What was your most memorable in-game moment?"
Oh, geez, there's a lot. In terms of game winners, maybe the tip in against Sydney was cool just because of Sydney were really good.
Take it to Sydney.
I think you always remember the dunks, especially like if you dunk on someone, you always remember that. So there was a couple in college.
Do you ever message someone after if you dunk on them during the game, like, yeah, good one, idiot? Chuck them a cheeky message.
It's usually.
You ever done that?
It's usually. I remember there was a game in college against a team called Regis, and I kind of dunked on a guy, and afterwards, later in the fourth quarter, he was just inviting my teammates to a party that was going on later. So I was eating there.
Yo, guys, after this game, party at mine.
Yeah.
Hey, but Mitch, you can't come. You dunked
Nah,
on me.
you dunked on me. You dunked on me, bro.
Hey, Mitch, you can go home, yeah?
And then another question from Joe Nude. He asked, what is your funniest basketball-related story?
That I can share.
But not family friendly, don't worry.
A funny one is Asia Cup. So Glidden won't mind me sharing this. I won't share all of it. But essentially we're in Lebanon, and we won all of our games in the pool round. So we had a massive break before, like five, 6, almost a week break before our quarterfinal. So the coaching staff pretty much said, look, we've been in lockdown for a week or two now. Everyone's done the right thing. Everyone's, looked after themselves. We're going to go have a fun day, and then we'll give you a couple days recovery, and then we lock back in, and we're serious till the end. And they were really cool like that. They were just like, let's go have a day of rather than pretend that we're in lockdown for another week before a quarterfinal, let's go do some fun. So we all went to this it was like a beach club really. So all the players got dropped off at a beach club. We all pitched in evenly and rented out this little villa thing. And so it was quiet at the beginning, but then it got a bit more packed. All the coaches left, went somewhere else. So it was just all the boys hanging. And after a while, everyone had a few beeries, and everyone was having a couple. Everyone was having a good time, and then all of a sudden, we're in the pool, and we had this ball that we were throwing at random people and getting them to see if they wanted to join in and throwing it back. And you'd get a few people that would be yeah, enjoying it. A couple of people man, these Australians get out of here. And anyway, Mitch Norton is throwing a ball or whatever, and he accidentally smashes his glass, and it falls to the bottom of the pool, and Glidden goes and steps on a big thick piece of glass. And he's oh crap. So he jumps out of the pool, and everyone is there's blood and shit in the pool, and everyone's oh crap. And so he gets out. He like walks over, like hobbling over to the villa, like just bleeding out his foot. All the boys helping him, but everyone's had a few, you know. So like they think they're helping him, but it could have been so much better. And they're like carrying him over, sitting him down on this like inside the villa, and everyone's like, "Oh, get the alcohol. We got to clean it out." And they're grabbing like all this alcohol, trying to like clean out his foot. It's like Jim Beam. Like that stuff doesn't like they're not going to use that.
Jim Beam.
Boys are just grabbing whatever, just throwing it on his foot, and
trying to torture the guy. You didn't even try to help him at that point.
Well, we call the team doc, and we were like, "Team doc, what do we do, man? What do we do? Like, it's pretty deep." Like, and he's like, "All right, he needs to go back to the hotel. I'll meet him there." We had this doctor next door. Crazy, right? He was Lebanese, but he'd spent a lot of time in Australia. They were in the villa right next to us. So like in the villa, it like overlooked the rest of the beach club, and you had like your own hot tub out the front of it. And so like we had all this food and stuff like sitting there, and everyone's just freaking out about Cam's foot. And so then he had to go. He had to go back to the hotel, and then like 2 or 3 hours later, like taxi rocks up. Glidden comes hobbling through the door, and his legs all bandaged up, and he's like, "I'm back, boys. I'm back."
You know what? That's dedication to the boys. That is dedication to the boys.
Yeah, and he missed the quarterfinal. He actually couldn't like play in the quarterfinal. He played the semi in the final, but there's a lot more to that story. But that's the PG version.
Yeah,
it was a really funny day. Really funny day, but just absolute idiots.
You can only say so much before you get in trouble.
Yeah, I have to. It's not mine to tell from there on.
You know what? To end it on a nice question, a wholesome note. If you had any advice for a young kid trying to play or go pro, what advice would you give them?
I think the best piece of advice that I can give is that when you get to a certain point in time, you know, say you're 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and you start to realize like, oh, I actually really like playing this, and you start to make some teams, you have a choice to make, and that's, do I want to compete all the time, or do I just kind of do this because I'm like doing it for my friends and stuff like that? And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I think if you want to be serious about getting better, especially when you're in that age and you start to hit the teen years, like you need to compete. And you need to make every opportunity that you have to compete is vital. Every game, every training, you know, when you're doing shooting drills or you're scrimmaging at training, you can mess around and you can just, you know, not give a damn because it's training, or you can try and win. And that alone builds a lot of character, and it builds habits that help you when you get into situations in games where you're tired, you've got nothing left. It's the end of the fourth quarter, but all you know is I do what I can to win. If you spend all your time messing around, I think you find yourself kind of shying away from those times because you haven't put yourself in it enough. So once you're old enough, that's what I found. When I became 15, 16, 17, and I started trying to win every scrimmage, I got so much better.
Right.
That's good advice, you know, win at all costs. That Jordan mindset.
Not be a wank to all your teammates, but yeah,
that LeBron mindset.
Yeah, LeBron mindset.
I'm not even gonna.
But don't get into it. I haven't watched the last
anyway,
so I can't comment on anything.
Anyway, thank you so much, Mitch, for coming on the Split Decision. We really enjoyed having you. It was quite the blast, and
That was fun. That was good.
And then everyone, make sure you're liking, commenting, subscribing. I'll comment who you want us to get on, and we'll try and get them on. And what else I was gonna say? Check out.
Can only do so much.
Check out Cremlon. What else do I normally say?
I don't know. Do you have anything you want to plug, Mitch, real quick?
Oh yeah.
Pardon?
Oh,
do you have anything you want to plug, real quick? Do you want to add in?
No,
shout out anything?
No, go United.
Yeah, go United. Go United. Go United.
And that's what I was gonna say. Apple Podcasts, making sure you're leaving that 5-star review helps us out a bunch. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
Fuck you, big boy without big broom. Big boy, how I come through. Big boy without brand new, cause I'm killing it.